Hi, this is a sales enablement video for Softcat around the Hornbill People Hub solution for the NHS. And in this session, I just wanted to give you a simple way to understand and position the People Hub opportunity within the NHS. This isn't about HR systems in general, it's about a very specific problem we see across NHS trusts and how to spot it. During this demo session, sorry, we're going to go through a number of slides and then Connor, my colleague, is going to take you through some real life product show and tell just to give you some sense of what that looks like. So as you'll already know, the NHS is huge, but the key point here isn't the scale, it's the complexity. There's over 1.7 million people employed in the NHS on a given day, billions in payroll, and HR decisions directly impact patient care. So HR isn't just administrative, it's operationally critical. And yet, despite that importance, the way HR services are delivered hasn't really modernized in the same way that we would know IT is having done so over the past 10 or 20 years. So the important thing to understand is this. In the NHS, policies are actually really strong and pretty well defined. They have to be. They're agreed with unions and other bodies, so it's pretty key that that is all nailed down. The key issue, though, is how they get executed. Most HR work still runs through inboxes, spreadsheets, and manually, so it's very paper-based. So while policy is standardized, the execution of those policies tends not to be, and this where the variation creeps in. Lots of delays, lots of risk, all starts to manifest. So let's just remember that policy is pretty standard, execution isn't. Now, in every trust, there's a tool called ESR. ESR is kind of the spine of the NHS from a HR perspective. It's the electronic staff record. This is the centralized system of record for people and pay all across the NHS. It tells you who someone is, where they work, and how they get paid. But it's important to understand what it doesn't do as well. It doesn't manage HR requests. It certainly doesn't manage workflow or casework. So basically, ESR records the outcomes. It's a system of record, but it doesn't manage the processes that lead to it. The other key thing that introduces a load of complexity in the NHS is something called assignments. An assignment means that a single person can have multiple roles across departments, different contracts, even organizations. They can have multiple managers, and all of this detail needs to be captured accurately because that's reflected in your pay as an NHS worker. Every time one of these changes is made to an assignment, whether it's a secondment, whether it's acting up or contract change, this creates work for HR. And that work has to be done correctly before ESR is updated. So the quality of what ends up in ESR depends entirely on how well the upstream work is managed. So this is where it becomes very real when something goes wrong. It doesn't just stay a data issue, it shows up as either pay errors, overpayments, or underpayments, access issues. Somebody can't get into a system, or more importantly, they can get into a system they shouldn't be able to get into, and compliance gaps. And this is a really key thing. Things like rights to work in the UK, professional registrations, these produce challenges in the NHS around compliance. And as you can imagine, you wouldn't want to get in a situation where you're having surgery with a surgeon whose professional registrations have expired or isn't entitled to work in the UK, for example. So these can often escalate into employee relation cases potentially. And by the time it shows up in ESR, the problem's already happened. So in reality, the root cause is rarely the data itself, it's the workflow around those assignment changes. Data accuracy and operational stability depends on the workflow that maintains it. And as we've touched on already, a lot of that is paper-based and manual and handled in inboxes and spreadsheets today. This is a recognized thing at a national level. The NHS digital HR strategy is focused on moving away from disconnected manual processes towards more connected self-service and automated service delivery, as you can see on the screen. So this isn't a niche problem, it's a strategic priority. This just gives you a feel for the breadth of HR requests. Everything from a simple change through to complex casework like grievances and disciplinaries and contractual changes. The key point isn't the detail, it's the volume and the variety. All of this is currently being coordinated in a largely manual way. That's a lot of operational workload being managed through inboxes. Colin's going to give you some examples of this as we get into the demo in a second. Just as we close up here before I hand over to Connor, this is a case study that I just wanted to highlight for you guys at Softcat, which is one of your customers. This is contracted with you guys at Softcat, so this is very much your case study. And this is Guy's and St Thomas's, where they were handling over 150,000 HR requests a year. But it was all being managed through legacy tools, email and manual processes, as we've outlined. So we worked very hard with these guys to overcome this difficult challenge for them, and provide better visibility, reduce effort and improve performance. And in doing so, they've implemented the Hornbill People Hub to address exactly this. They've introduced a structured HR service platform, self-service for employees and managers, workflow for automation for HR, full visibility of requests and performance, and the results speak for themselves. A significant reduction in manual effort, improved employee and manager experience, and around a 60% reduction in cost per case. But more importantly, HR's moved from being reactive, inbox-driven work to a controlled, measurable service. And again, these customers will be more than happy, I'm sure, to speak to any prospects that you guys can uncover. And lastly, just before I hand over to Connor, we have G-Cloud 15 coming up in September, October of this year. And at that point, Softcat has an exclusive listing on G-Cloud 15 for the NHS People Hub. So you're the only partner that we're working with on this particular offering. So you guys have an exclusive option to position this solution via G-Cloud. Obviously, other frameworks can be used, but just having up there as a G-Cloud listing is a big benefit for you guys. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Connor, and he's going to take you through a couple of examples just to bring some of that to life for you.
Thank you, Abdi, and hello, everyone. As Abdi mentioned, there are over 1.7 million employees on the NHS electronic staff record system. So as you can imagine, the data is constantly changing and we need that data to be as up to date as it possibly can be. Hornbill provides a front end to enable managers across the NHS organisation to easily report updates and changes to that ESR data. For example, here on this front page, any establishment changes, any position changes, any team related changes such as leavers or sickness absences, and any acting up requests. And all of this is available on a central self-service portal alongside the logged in users' tasks and approvals, so they can easily see what tasks and approvals they have. They can action those in nice clear formats. And because we have that feed in from the ESR system, in the same place, the managers can easily see their managed employees along with assignment numbers and assignment end dates, and any managed departments they may have under their remit, including any assignments and employees within each of those departments. So as I say, this is a central self-service portal for managers to easily get the information they need and let the relevant teams know of any changes to that ESR data. This portal is available anywhere, anytime, and on any device. Once a manager does let the HR advisors know of any changes to the ESR data, a ticket will be logged, automatically pop into the relevant team's queue to them to go and action and fundamentally make those ESR changes. And that will then provide a full and reportable audit trail of every interaction, every authorization, and every ESR update made by that HR organization. Now, it also gives managers visibility of the most accurate and up-to-date information as per the data in ESR, and that will then make managers' lives easier than changing that data within a request. So if we go and say we're logged in here as People Hub Director 1, People Hub Director 1 wants to promote one of our senior managers into a director role for a new limited term project. So we can run into a completely configurable set of questions, completely up to you what gets asked and how it gets presented. In this particular case, as you can see, we've got some initial guidance. We have hyperlinks to a particular source of knowledge or external systems. And in this case, as I say, we want to put one of our managed employees, Senior Manager 1, who is currently in the Senior Manager position. We want to start that user into People Hub Test Team 1 into a director position. So we're effectively promoting Senior Hub Manager 1 or Senior Manager 1 into a director position for this limited term project. Now, we still need to answer those basic details. This is a new role, there is a recruitment process, and obviously we are heavily audited, so we need to provide evidence of fair selection. So I have my interview notes here ready to go. So this can then be evidenced within each individual ticket again as part of that audit trail. The reason is for a limited term project. We're going to be starting on Monday, and this is going to be running for a few months, let's say until the end of July. We're going to be working 40 hours a week. And once we have that basic information, as you can see, that's captured in the breadcrumb trail on the right hand side. So the manager can see what's been asked and what's been answered previously. We can easily jump back and change any of that if relevant. But then we have that decision-based branching. So based on the answer to each question, the user will only see what they need to see based on the previous answer. So in this particular case, do the details of senior manager one need to change, yes or no? If we said yes and hit next, we're asked which manager will be the correct manager. If we go back and said no, we'll skip that question and we're asked the next relevant question. Now, as I say, this is based on the current ESR data. In this particular option, if Senior Manager 1 employs staff, what action should be taken to reassign their direct reports? As you can see, there are multiple options. The employee does not manage staff. There's no changes. If we want to change all of that user's direct reports to a new manager, we simply select the relevant option and select the new manager. But if they have different destinations, that user's staff, we can go through each individual one and reconfirm the manager. So this user People Hub employee 2 is going to be coming to work with us under the director position. And instead, Senior Manager 1 will have a People Hub employee 1 working for him in this new limited term project. So we'll fill in the relevant details. All of it will appear on the right hand side. We'll hit finish. That will log the ticket, come back with a reference number, and the manager will see a checkpoint based representation of the workflow that's now been invoked. So that workflow will take care of assignments, automatic routing, starting and stopping timers, assigning out tasks to the relevant users, and any authorizations that may be needed. In this particular case, you can see all of the detail is all on the same page. The summary in a nicely formatted description, along with anything that's happened in the timeline in chronological order, the attachments that we attached as we were raising that ticket, and the answers that we provided as we were raising that particular request. If the manager, for whatever reason, forgot something and wanted to either attach a file or post something new, we can obviously post it directly from the same place on the self-service portal. So once that's been raised, that will then pop into our HR advisor's queue. I'm logged in over here as a gentleman called Graham, and Graham has received a notification, and we can drill straight into that new request. So Graham has the same view. You can see the same reference number. You can see the same heads up display. Graham is part of the recruitment team. So now Graham's opened it. He's being prompted to assign a member of that team. So we'll pick it up as our analyst user, Graham. Now, as you can see, as per the first step in our workflow, we need approval. We need to review the attached selection documentation and approve or reject the request. In this case, we know it's okay, so we'll go ahead and approve that. And as we do, the process will kick on and the relevant next step will get ticked. The next step in this particular workflow is it will reassign this request now from the recruitment team over to the payroll team for them to go and action these changes and fulfill this particular request. So as you can see, it's been reassigned to the payroll team. And again, we've been prompted to take ownership. So Graham in the payroll team now can go ahead and complete the tasks, update the information according to the assignment changes as is detailed in the individual ticket. We have the nicely formatted summary, where it came from, what happened, when the approval took place, and obviously attachments and the questions that we populated as we were raising this particular request on the self-service portal. So from the HR advisor's point of view, the only thing really to do is confirm that those ESR changes have now been completed. So we confirm that's happened, and that will then go ahead and resolve and then close this particular request, providing that full audit trail of everything that's happened in the life cycle of this particular request, when it happened, where it came from, who actioned it. Now, alongside that, automatic notifications are being sent out as we work on that particular request, letting the end user and or any other relevant stakeholders know exactly what's happened, when it's happened, along with links to jump into the self-service to see that finer detail themselves and provide updates if needed. So customers, any stakeholders are being automatically notified as we work on each individual request. Alongside that, we ingest this ESR data into Hornbill to provide our HR advisors with an overview of our managed employees, along with basic details such as visa expiry dates, which is obviously very important in the NHS world. But if we drill into any of these users, we can see their basic details, any assignments they are linked to, obviously the supervisor details against each assignment, and any fixed term end dates or professional registration expiry dates. And the reason I mention those ones specifically is we pull that data into Hornbill to then proactively notify when those expiry dates are upcoming. And we do that using a function called assignment expiry notification. So as you can see, if an NHS employee's visa has expired, we would then be in breach of employment law, allowing them to continue working. If professional registration expires, again, we would be in breach of our duty of care to allow them to keep working. If a fixed term contract or an acting up project that employee stays being paid when that fixed term contract is finished, that's obviously a cost to our NHS organisation. So we need to proactively know in advance of any of these expiry dates coming in. So we pull in the latest and greatest data from ESR. We then set up targets and timers against each of these. In this particular case of the professional registration, 35 days before target and 7 days before target, we then fire off a script. And that script is then capable of various different actions. In this particular case, we run a graphical drag and drop code free script. So this can do whatever you want to. It could send notifications. In this example, it's raising a ticket that will again be popped into the HR advisor's queue. And we have an integration platform built in. So at any point, we can simply drag and drop our workflow to then go and push to a third party cloud system or an on-premise system or whatever the case may be, whatever you want to happen when those expiry dates are upcoming. All of this is completely configurable. Now, as you'd expect, if we are handling these interactions within Hornbill, we obviously have out-of-the-box reports and dashboards to allow you to analyze and interpret the performance in how you and your teams are managing all of these ESR interactions with your employees.